Hey, this is Type V3 and anti-spiral technology has taken the form of the manliest drill-wielding hero. This is the Super Robot Chogokin Anti-Gurren Lagann, as seen only in the PSP video game Super Robot Wars Z2. As you may have already guessed, this figure is a straight-up repaint of the original SRC release. There are some minor differences which include a brand new faceplate and a resculpted torso, but for the most part, this is just a black Gurren Lagann. Nevertheless, the toy looks fantastic and screams evil. The black paint is simple, the red highlights pop, and the slate gray areas break up what could otherwise be considered a monotonous color scheme. In fact, I'd even say that the wilder proportions that Bandai utilized with the original SRC Gurren Lagann work a lot better here with this figure's darker colors. Of course, I still think the final presentation could have been elevated a step further with a full-on glossy finish or sections of cold metallic paint. Now, while Anti-Gurren Lagann's new faceplate is neat, 3 additional faces have been included for those not too fond of it. They're the same 3 expressions included with the original Gurren Lagann, albeit painted black. Swapping them is identical too, and for those curious, yes, you can interchange them with one another. Articulation on Anti-Gurren Lagann isn't that much different than the original release. After all, this is basically the same toy. So with that said, he has all the pros and cons of the original Gurren Lagann. And that's... the one thing I've always found with the original SRCGL is that despite not being able to do anything really fancy, there's not really revealing detail or sliding plates, he's actually probably the most posable in the toy line just because of how much range he has for each of his joints, and that's always been a great thing about this mold. The main limitation has always just been this hip skirt here, in that when you pull the hip up too far, it tends to pop off, and that's just something you have to eventually learn the limitations of before you can properly use them. If there is one change in his articulation compared to the original that I need to mention, it's the torso. Because of the way this new torso has been molded, the original Gurren Lagann actually was able to get his teeth to touch, and thus resulting in a much wider range of torso motion. With Anti-Gurren Lagann, they don't quite touch, and the actual opening of the mouth is a little bit smaller, so he has a slightly smaller window for that waist joint to be used. It's not the biggest change in the world, it's barely noticeable, but it is something that is slightly different. Again, die-cast construction is where you'd think it would be, lower legs, most of the inner structure, and of course there is a Tamashii stage adapter, which I don't know why, but I really like the idea that it was painted the same slate gray as the rest of the body, just to keep to that uniformity. So once you plug it right here in this rear end section, you can use a Tamashii stage to just have him on display. And that's really all there is to this figure. His articulation is great, Tamashii adapter is great, and if you're also wondering, yes, he does have the removable backplate and the arms can come off for the crossover joint gimmick, so all the same features and functionality that you would expect with the original Gurren Lagann figure. Anti-Gurren Lagann comes with a total of 4 pairs of hands. These range from fists and open palms to pointing fingers and even gripping hands too. That last one is a bit strange since this SRC doesn't come with anything to wield. As for accessories, there's not much, only drills. First are the 4 anti-spiral drills that can plug into the figure's wrists. The black to violet gradient is slick, however the soft rubbery construction of the drills can leave them appearing floppy at times. Then there's the 32 regular drills included to attach to the rest of the body. They're essentially the same set of drills found in the drill set of Manliness, with the only difference being that they're much longer. You can use them to give Anti-Gurren Lagann a full drillize mode, though I personally found these more useful in emulating Gurren Lagann's Giga Drill Maximum attack. Beyond that, there's nothing else. No boomerangs, no wing pack, and not even the fuchsia energy effects he seems to produce fairly often in the video game. Super Robot Chogokin Anti-Gurren Lagann is a classic example of what happens when you take a toy and paint it black. The cool factor skyrockets and it becomes that much more desirable. The visual qualities outweigh everything else, and honestly, that's the only thing that matters here. Sure, if you like the original SRCGL, then no doubt you'll like Anti-Gurren Lagann too. But let's face it, as an entire package, it's a little weak. There are very few accessories included. It's slightly overpriced, and its status as a Tamashii web exclusive makes it that much harder to get a hold of. Even for Gurren Lagann fans, this is still an easy pass, considering Anti-GL has nothing to do with the series canonically. So again, if you just lust after this robot's killer looks, then I recommend picking it up without hesitation. For those hoping for something more profound, sadly that's not what SRC Anti-Gurren Lagann is trying to offer. Anyways, this has been Type V3. Thanks for watching, and I hope this isn't the last we see of Gurren Lagann characters in the Super Robot Chogokin toy line. After all, every hero needs a villain, and I'd love nothing more than to see Lagann in SRC form. Oh, and Kinkitan too, because come on, who doesn't love that awesome star face?